Get started this morning, and if more people come in, we'll just let them trickle in and have a seat. I'm Rebecca Davis. I'm the author of Becoming Educated, The Options After High School. I think all of you guys have my book, right, and may have read it. So I'm going to talk today about how do you pick a college. What are the steps you need to take to choose, one, your degree, and two, where you're going to get that degree. So, the reason this is important is that only about half of the students who enroll in a four-year degree program are going to graduate. And that's a really sad statistic because it's not cheap to go to college. And those students a lot of times leave feeling like failures, and they have student loan debt that reminds them that they didn't finish, and it causes, long-term problems. The other thing is that only about a third of the jobs in America require a bachelor's degree. So if you don't need one, why invest in one? Okay. Another, almost a third, requires some kind of training or college, so an associate's degree or career technical education. So going to a VOTEC and getting a certification is going to give you about a third of the jobs. And then about another third don't require anything beyond your high school diploma or your GED. But everyone needs a high school diploma or GED anymore. Most employers, once you're over 18, are beginning to expect that. And so your employment options become limited. Okay, so how do students figure out what they want to do? How do you know what you want to get a degree in? This is a free resource, OneNet or onetonline.org. And it's going to give you a few things. It's going to give you a profile, so you can take the profile test, and it's going to show you what your interests are and kind of some career categories that you might want to look at. But then it's also going to give you all of the job opportunities and all of the job titles that exist for those career categories. So if you want to go on, you can go ahead and click on that or go to that website and take the interest profiler. Kind of familiarize yourself with that website. That is a government-run website, and it's got what's called the dictionary of job titles. Every job title that exists in America. And the job titles are handy, knowing what you want to search for when you go to look at jobs. Okay, what's available? Those are the top 3 job search sites that I recommend. Okay, this one Indeed searches almost all other job sites and brings all the job opportunities into one place. Glassdoor and CareerBuilder, however, give you the added benefit of researching salaries in your area. So once you find a position open, you may want to go there and look at salary potential. And the reason we're talking about this before we get to the degree part is because once you find job descriptions, they're going to tell you what degree they want you to have, what degree you have to have under requirements, and then what degree they prefer you to have under the preferred qualifications. So if you want that job, those preferred qualifications are what you want to target during your degree or during your education. So you're going to want the degree, but you're also going to want to do something either volunteering or an internship or taking a part-time job where you're gaining practical life experience in that career field, because the degree isn't enough anymore. Employers want degree plus experience, but your 24-year-old college graduate's not going to have that experience, but they can get it. They have to be proactive. They have to go out and search for those opportunities. But unless they know to do that, they're not going to. Okay? So, now you know how much education you need. Once you've picked a career field, looked at some job descriptions based on the job titles given to you by ONET, now you know if you need an associate's degree, a certificate, a bachelor's degree, all the way up to a doctorate. Okay? Once you've determined that, these are your options. Okay, career and technology education. These are your VOTECs. your Francis Tuttle, your Metro Tech, places where you can go to get a certification. You can also get certifications at community colleges, and these are going to be 2-year colleges where you can get your associate's degree. The reason it's important to know what you want before you go here is these colleges serve a lot of students. And it's easy to get lost. It's easy to fall through the cracks, take classes you don't need, which increases the expense, delays graduation. So you need to know what you're going for here so that you can get connected with an advisor, get in and get out, okay? A lot of students have realized that it's less expensive and a little bit easier to start here, get your associate's degree, and transfer to a 4-year college if you're going on for that bachelor's or above. And the reason is because community colleges are less expensive. So, but when you get to your colleges and universities, you've got options. There are for-profit and there are nonprofits. And this is true of at the associate level as well. There are some what we call career colleges that focus on just giving you enough to give you an associate's degree and put you in a career. Okay, so the main difference is these are generally going to be more expensive. They are going to be smaller. Students are going to receive more one-on-one, but they're not going to have access to a lot of the internship opportunities and the community, the networking opportunities that students at traditional nonprofit colleges are going to have. So it's a trade-off, and students have to determine what works best for them, what's going to fit their needs. Okay. You also have public versus private. Private schools are generally still going to be nonprofit, but they're usually going to be affiliated with a religious institution. Okay, so these are usually religiously oriented, and they tend to be a little bit more expensive than your public universities, because your public universities are receiving state and federal subsidies to help them cover the cost of providing education. And the reason I bring this up is this word, accreditation. It's something that throws a lot of students off, but it is almost the end all to your transferability or moving from an associate's degree and taking your credits with you to a bachelor's program. Accreditation is simply the quality assurance process that the government has set in place to review colleges so that they are giving students the education they say they're giving. Okay, so it is a quality assurance process. There are national accrediting agencies and regional accrediting agencies. Generally, your regionally accrediting agencies are higher quality and have a better reputation. Okay, so if you're going to start, say you're going to start at OCCC, and your plan is to transfer to OU. You're going to want to make sure that both of those schools are accredited by the same agency. But you're also going to want to talk to OU and make sure that what you take at OCCC will be accepted and transferred, because just because they share an accreditor doesn't mean they have to accept all your transfer credits. That's why I tell students to get the complete associate's degree, because they tend to take more than if you just take a handful of classes and transfer. Okay? And that kind of takes care of the transfer credits there. From your for-profit schools, very seldom, if ever, do they transfer to anywhere else. So even if your for-profit schools are accredited and offering you a high-quality education, the nonprofit public schools are generally not going to accept transfer credits. You're usually going to have to start over. Okay, so again, anytime you're looking at transferring or moving up versus getting your entire 4-year degree at one school, you want to talk to both schools and make sure what you're doing is going to transfer. Okay. So you've got a couple of worksheets in front of you. The one is your career search worksheet. It's got the links that I showed on the first slide, and helps you to kind of walk you through the process of researching the career opportunities and deciding what you want to do. The other one is, once you figured out that dream job, you know what you want to do, you're going for, is to help you narrow down your college choices, okay? And I put 3 on there for a reason. There are hundreds of colleges you can go to, but not all of them are going to meet your needs. So we narrow it down, basically who offers, number 1, the degree you need. Because if you don't need what they're offering, they're off the list, okay? And then who meets your needs? How expensive are they? Do you need them to be close to home? Are you wanting to go out of state? At state colleges, nonprofit public institutions, if you move out of state, a lot of times you pay higher tuition. Some states have agreements where they don't charge that out of state tuition. So that's an additional piece of information you need to research. Living arrangements. Do you need to live on campus or off? Not all colleges offer on-campus housing. If you're in athletics, or who's offering you an athletic scholarship or music scholarship or academic scholarship, all of those things become pieces of your personal puzzle. And then the next thing to look at is their admission requirements. Do you meet them? Do you have the minimum GPA that they need? That's usually the big kicker. Some schools and some programs within a school are going to have admission requirements above and beyond the schools. So that's, again, to look at GPA. They might look at your volunteer experience, your work experience. If you took certain types of classes in high school, did you go as far as you could in math? They're going to look at those kinds of things. So if you didn't do that, then that doesn't go on your worksheet. And then there's the big one. Can you afford it? Because sometimes the school you want to go to is just out of the question. And sometimes it's not. There are more than one way to pay for school. And so Ms. Christina is going to come up and talk about that. But first, do you have any questions about what I've talked about? No. That's the end of mine. So pull yours up.
Did I share it with you?
Oh yeah, it's in mine. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think employers care where you went, or does the name of the school mean anything?
Sometimes. The name of the school is really going to be about the reputation of the school, and it is going to matter in specific degree areas. So if you're going into something that's highly specialized, like biochemistry or marine biology, things that aren't offered at most of your universities, then where you go is going to matter. Okay? But for most of us, getting the typical degrees, it doesn't. But when you're looking at the job description, it's going to tell you. Like, I've seen some job descriptions that say that not only do they want this specific degree, but you have to have earned it from a nonprofit public institution. Okay, so that's something to watch for. Employers are just starting to put that in the job description. So you're going to want to look at that in the job descriptions. Okay?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Those of you who don't know me, you can go ahead and click it. It's a whole bunch of clicks because I thought we were gonna have a clicker. That's fine. This is how work hard, it pays. Okay, and so this is all about how to work hard now for your students and what you can do to support them, because I'm kind of adding the parent component because I normally talk to girls, but how you can work hard now and how it's going to pay for itself later on. Those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Christina Kirk. I am the founder and the current dean of Prep University, which is a girls college prep and mentoring program where we spend 2 Saturdays a month getting ready for college now for 6th grade through 12th grade girls. my other day jobs. I'm an attorney, teacher, I do some other stuff, but it all relates to kids and education, I promise. And so this is what we're going to do today. We are going to keep going. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's got a bunch of clicks. College is so expensive, okay? Tuition for a private school, on average, these are just the averages for the United States, is about $32,000 for private school. It's about $9,500 if you go to a public school. I didn't include career techs because they just range so widely, it's hard to get a good average on it. Room and board is about another $11,000 if you choose to live on campus. School fees, about $1,000. Books, $1,250. And then you have to live, so it's about $3,500 a year to live if you're taking care of all this through school. That's a lot of money, a whole lot of money. And so how do we get this taken care of? How can we make this affordable? So this is going to be Dr. Kirk's questions and answers to the rescue, okay? This is going to be my way of giving you as much information about prepping for college because it's a ton of questions. And the way it was when we went to school and the way it is now when our children are going to school, totally different worlds. Totally different. It's different between my bachelor's degree and my doctorate degree. So it's a totally different world now with our kids. And if you don't educate yourself so you can educate your kid, you end up making a lot of costly mistakes and things that woulda, shoulda, coulda, costa. Okay? So we want to make sure we want to try to help that out. This is what we don't want. This is the ultimate goal, not to be here. Unfortunately, I'll probably be here, which is why I do what I do now, so nobody else is here. Because I'm probably going to be still looking at that going, is it still 6 digits? Dang, I feel like I've been paying this forever. And then you do turn into, hello, my name is, and it's how much money you owe. Because how much money you owe follows every single thing that you do. It goes against your debt to income ratio. It goes against some jobs because you can't get a federal job in a government and you owe 6 figures because they're thinking you're going to trade some United States secrets to pay off that student debt. And so it limits you. And so let me help. These are the lessons I learned from experience, positive and negative. I just put a kid in college. This is her first year. And I am extremely happy to say that even though her total number for school is $72,355,000 a year, I write a check for $0. I pay nothing. I don't even give her money to live off of because it's included in her scholarship. Now, she is my kid. So she still wants stuff, but I don't have to because she actually has it. So this is how you can do this. What can you do to help the cost of education? Got to create the well-rounded kid. Got to. And that's where us as parents come in, cultivating our kids because we see things in our kids that they don't see in themselves. And so you're cultivating this well-rounded kid. Grades are important. That's why it's number 1. Good grades. Good grades. It's a great foundation. But focusing on activities inside school and outside of school. Colleges now, I talk to recruiters all the time and college admission people, and what are you looking for? Various schools are looking for various things, but there are some things that are universal. And one of the things that is universal is they want a kid that can not only go to class and be really productive in class, but they also want a kid that's going to become a part of the culture of their school. Schools are really big on building great school culture right now. That's the buzzwords for right now. And a part of building that culture is you want to bring in students who aren't going to sit in their dorm room and do their homework, who aren't going to sit in the library and just study all day long. You want kids that's going to create an environment on your campus to make other kids want to come be a part of it. And so you do that by focusing on activities outside of school, connecting with your community. Everybody loves goodwill. Schools love that. They eat that stuff up. And they want kids that already have a foundation in it because they're not going to have to train them or teach them how to go out and search for community opportunities because these kids are going to come to their school already with a passion for something and already with something that they care about and realize that it's outside of themselves. You also create a global society kid. You create a kid who sees beyond themselves. And let's face it, most teenagers only care about me, myself, and I. But if you can cultivate a kid who cares about beyond that, schools want that. And they become valuable to schools. And then aligning with like-minded peers. They got to be around other kids that are doing the same thing. Nobody wants to be an island. And we're not even created to be islands. And so your kids have to be around other kids who are like-minded, because then it becomes something we do together. We are very communal. And so we're doing it together, we're working together, and they're not getting distracted so much by those other things because they know they have these accountability partners who are peers that are doing the same thing. Hey, look, we got to take the SAT today. And we get to study for this. When you have people around you who are going to remind you and keep you focused, you tend to stay more focused. Okay? So you don't want to be the student loan person, dragging the ball forever. Again. So when should you start preparing for college scholarship applications? Okay? But this is more like we're going to pay for college through scholarships and through the schools. This is geared toward four-year institutions. However, there are tons and tons of ways to pay for school on a lower level, like the associate's degrees with community colleges. Oklahoma has a thing. They'll pay for the first 2 years at community colleges. And all you really got to do is graduate from Oklahoma school. Not really hard, because if they're going to college, they got to graduate anyway. So it's just, I have my kids at school right now researching the different requirements between Harvard, OU, and OCCC. And one of the kids got up in class and said, OCCC, it looks like all you have to do is just graduate. And I was like, ding, 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 you figured it out. Because that's what they're looking for in terms of the state funding that they receive, which is why they are so big. Like Rebecca said, your kid can get lost in the mix because there's so many people, adults, kids straight out of high school, everybody's matriculating together, and it can get really murky if your kid is not clear and focused on what they want. And let's face it, who's 18 and 19 and clear and focused on what they want? And so when you should start preparing for college, ideally it's middle school. Okay, let's just be honest. Ideally, middle school, and here's why. Middle school is because middle school is that time where you get to figure out you. Okay? Middle school is when you get to try cheerleading if you want to, football, basketball. One of the middle schools I work with, they got some girls on the football team because they're just figuring out them. And if you're looking for something to be your focus, figuring it out at an early age is the perfect time to do it. They care about what other people think, but they're so caught up in the fun of it that they're still willing to try and still willing to experience new things. By the time they get to high school, new things scare them. And so middle school is that fun time, but it also gives you a pattern for high school. If you can narrow it down in middle school, explore everything in middle school, and then focus in high school, it gives you a solid application, okay? If you're in high school now, then you start where you are. If your kid's a senior, you start there. If your kid's a freshman, you start there. You make a plan, okay? Scholarships aren't just like, hey, did you hear about that scholarship? You better fill out the application. No, doesn't work like that. You have to have a plan for how you choose to attack scholarships. And that plan starts with how you prepare what's going to go on those scholarships. It's really heartbreaking when I work with kids and they're like, I want to play for this one, I want to play for this one. And then they open it up and they start going, well, I haven't done that. No, I don't have that. My application looks empty. And it's because they didn't start preparing until senior year. It makes a big difference when you build that resume freshman, sophomore, and junior year so you can brag on yourself senior year. And you can take a step back from some of that stuff you've been doing because college application process is a lot of work. So next slide. Then again. What does focus look like? Focus is what it's going to take to build that application process, okay? And so I chose this picture simply because see how hard it is to focus on that word? See all the distractions that are around it? And you want to try to figure out what that other stuff says, but it's not what you're supposed to be focusing on. That's what life can be like for our teenagers. They know I need to get ready college. My parents have talked about college since I was 2 days old. At school, all they do is talk about going to college or career tech. My teachers always talk about college. Everybody who knows my mom and dad, every time they see them, they ask them, well, have you decided what college you're going to? I'm so sick of talking about college. But the focus is college. There's a whole bunch of stuff around it that's distracting. And so your focus is so important. And as you're helping your kids learn how to focus, that's where that parental support / I know you better than you know yourself kind of comes into play. And being able to say, hey, you tried this. Remember when you did cheerleading? You didn't like that. Remember when you did soccer? Girl, you didn't last 2 games running up and down that field. But when you did that speech competition, you did amazing. You didn't even practice and came home with a first place. Let's try it again. And as parents, we build up their strengths or we tear down their strengths. The choice is ours. And so being able to narrow it down, middle school is why I say start, because you can play and have all the fun in the different areas. And then high school, you can narrow that focus down. Schools are applications for scholarships, no matter if it's a school scholarship or if it's outside scholarship, they're looking for longevity in an area. Something that you can say, I've committed to this. And so if you have 4 years of debate on your application, that speaks of your commitment, that speaks of your dedication, that speaks of your skill level. It says a lot about the student when they have certain areas that they can show longevity in. Okay? And trying to align that focus with the area that you want to study in college. If your child has done the interest survey on the ACT, it gives them a report. It gives you like a little pie chart, tells you the areas that you're interested in. If they actually answered all 200 of those ACT questions with actual thought, we all know, some of them look at it and go, you gotta be kidding me, and just start clicking stuff. But if they truly did answer it with thought and they paid attention while they were reading it, it can give you a pretty accurate description of what your kid is interested in. Or you can use the ONET or any other interest survey that can give them an idea of what they're interested in. And as parents, you see what they're good at. And that can help to direct their path. But trying to align that focus area with what they want to study in college. I will tell you personally, what my kid did was science. That was her thing. That was her niche. And it became something that everything she did sparked from science. So science was like our top thing, and everything else was a derivative of science. And so her first internship was at the Oklahoma Science Museum. She was 11 years old. Because she was interested in science, I was looking for science stuff. It came up. I was like, oh, let's do this. It says 7th grade. She was a grade ahead. So she was 11, and these kids were still 12 years old as she was teaching. But it was her passion and is what she wanted to do. So she got to spend all summer at the Science Museum for 3 years. So from 11, 12, and 13, that's what she did. School-wise, Science Olympiad, science competitions, math competitions, because science and math align perfectly. I always said if she changed her mind, at least she'd have a strong science and math background. You pretty much do a lot of things with a strong science and math background. So not only did she do science at school, but they started a Science Olympiad team. So in her application, she got to say that she was the co-founder of Cassidy's Science Olympiad team. They won state 5 years in a row. She was on the team 5 years in a row. So those are things that she got to add to her application that showed her dedication to science, but also showed her focus to that area. Her community service for all of her applications was she taught science. Taught science to kids. Did beauty pageants, because that was before the teenage years came and we want to do what we want to do. But mommy was like, you're so cute, we should do these pageants. So she did pageants, but her community service aspect of her pageants, because all the pageants that she did required the kids to make appearances and do community service, well, all her community service was science. Teaching science, doing science labs, it all revolved around science. So when we got ready to sit down and do an application for college, applications for the essays, as well as for the scholarship essays, everything was science. We actually wrote one essay, and then there was a version for leadership, There's a version for community service and a version for her ambition, because most applications ask you to write an essay about what you want to do when you get done with school, how have you contributed to your community, and how have you demonstrated leadership. We really wrote one essay, science, what is it called? Science is my passion, and here's why. And that same essay, you know, the words change depending on the scholarship, but that same essay was what we worked with the whole time because she had that foundation. Now that foundation started in middle school. Schools were very impressed with that. Not everybody's going to be that focused. And she did other stuff. She did cheer, she did basketball, what else did she do? Volleyball for about 5 years. But the focus was science, and her degree that she's currently majoring in is biology. And so it all aligned. And so being able to align your focus with your college of study is extremely important to helping somebody else pay for your college education. Okay? Research, and guess what? More research. That is the best way to figure out how to do this for your child. We're so blessed nowadays. We have computers, cell phones. Google is the world's greatest thing currently. Googling whatever it is your kid is interested in. My kid is interested in dance. They want to go to dance school, and I need dance scholarships. Google dance scholarships for college freshmen or dance scholarships for graduating seniors. You will pull up so much information. There are a couple of sites that I love, and I feel like they work really, really well. Scholarships.com, FastWeb. This is my all-time favorite. JBL, collegecounseling.com. Jennifer, her name is Jennifer, is amazing. She actually goes in and puts the scholarships in according to what month that they're due. And so your kids can look and say, okay, it's September, I'm working on October's because, of course, October 1st is a part of the October due date stuff, so you don't want to wait until October to open it up. But she puts them in order, and she gives little brief descriptions about them. You just have to go through, check out the descriptions, see if that's something that meets your child's qualifications, and then you're able to either go directly to that website for whatever scholarship it is. I found a lot of little scholarships on there, and big scholarships. And so you can use that as a guiding tool. There's another one, I think the other one that says Google, entering your child's desire. Whatever it is that your kid wants to do. Other resources that people don't take advantage of include your school counselor. We live in Oklahoma. A lot of Oklahoma counselors focus nothing else but Oklahoma schools. But if your kid is interested in Oklahoma school, take advantage of that. If they're unsure, take advantage of it. Because what happens is if they change their mind and their ideal school is to go out of state, and then they get close to the graduation, like I have 2 seniors right now that are real close to graduation, and they're starting to go, I've been wanting to go out of state, but now I kind of want to stay, because they get nervous too. Now they're looking at those in-state opportunities, and so your local college counselor is going to have, or school counselor is going to have that. There's college prep programs. PrepU is awesome, but there are other programs too that will help your child narrow their focus and help them align and help them through the process and help parents through the process. And then you want to talk to kids who receive scholarships. Come on, this is real life. Let's talk to somebody who's been there, done that, and someone who's been there, done that recently, because things do change really, really rapid in the scholarship arena. But talking to someone who's been there, done that, because the kids know the process and they can share that process with other kids. There are scholarships available to you, okay? There's tons of stuff out there. And even if you don't have the best grades, of course, merit is the #1 way that people get scholarships, merit. Merit simply is a great GPA. That also includes your test scores, both of the nationally recognized college admissions tests, ACT and SAT, having good test scores for your area and for the school. Merit scholarships, if you're looking at a merit scholarship, you want to have above and beyond whatever that school's average is. And so if the school's average is a 25, for a merit scholarship, you want to at least have a 27, 28. and that's just putting you in the running for a merit scholarship. The higher you are above their average, the more likely you are to get merit from that school. Need-based, that's where your FAFSA comes into play. It gives an overall view of what your family's estimated contribution to your child's education is, can be. Sometimes that number is unrealistic, but it does give schools an idea of what financially you will need. And some schools do admit based off of need. They don't always advertise that, but some schools are need-based aligned, which simply means that they admit your child based on their record, and then they look at whether or not there's a financial need for your child to attend that school. And other schools look at both financial and the child's record. Programs of study focus. When you're looking for scholarships, if you're interested in a field that's typically unrepresented by your child's ethnicity, that is a great way to look for funding. Work for DEVA, less than 2% of all people in science and math fields are women of color. And so schools were like, hey, you want to study science and you're smart and you're well-rounded and you can, come on, let's go. And literally we're throwing money at her. Schools that now everything is STEM and STEAM, everything's STEM and STEAM right now. Well, STEM and STEAM has actually oversaturated the study fields. And so now schools are saying, we need to beef up our humanities department. Our English department is lacking. And so if you are able to have a kid that's interested in English or history, those things that are outside of STEM, and find schools that are willing to beef up those departments, then they're willing to offer your student a scholarship to bring them in as a history major, because STEM has been pushed so much in the last 7 years that the entering classes are all biology, chemistry, math, computer science majors, which are great majors. It's just, if I'm historically a liberal arts school and my science department is 60% of my kids, then I have all these other departments that I need to average it out with. Okay? Unrepresented areas, something that's not common. Something that's not common. Those things, when you, like those little small areas of study, those specific areas of study, you can find schools that want your child for those small areas, then they'll be willing to pay for that. Making sure that you're able to do the research to find those is going to be really, really key. And that's where parents come into play. I mean, this is a lot. Can you imagine if you're a senior trying to do all this by yourself? This is crazy. So as parents, we have to step in and help. Now, we can't do it for everything for them because their applications, their scholarships have to have their voice. Schools know if mama wrote it or if kid wrote it. Because we just don't sound the same as our kids. No matter how hard we try, we're just not going to sound the same as them. And so having their voice is extremely important. So the essays and those kind of things, kids need to be doing that. But the research, mom and dad can help so much. Finding that niche, finding that little area that your child is laser focused on or has some kind of dot on their radar is going to be really key. And you can get money for those things. Here's the deal, you can also change your mind when you get to school. You know, if they get there and they're like, I really wanted to do this. Diva is, my daughter's nickname is Diva. Diva is currently in school in biology, but some kind of way I looked on the other day and she signed something, biology and theater major. Yeah, not sure where that came from, but education still paid for. So theater major, biology and theater, still gonna get paid for. Okay. Sports are great, but I listed sports last for a reason. Sports can become the focus so much that it's overly popular. And schools, unless you are the kid that's putting up 25 points and 10 boards every game, schools, they get so many people with tapes, the what's the thing that they make, the highlight reels to get recruiters to come and check out schools. They get so much of that it's not special anymore. And you have to be super special to really receive money. They will give money for sports, but the trend has now been these partial scholarships. And if they do give you a full scholarship for football, they want you on the basketball team too, because they're going to keep you conditioning doing basketball while you're in the off season for football. And that's a lot of work. And that's a lot of toll on your child's body, depending on what they want to do. So unless you have that kid that's just super exceptional, sports needs to be the last thing. So schools that will pay you to attend. There are tons of schools that will actually pay your kid to go to school. And so I have a link, and I will be glad to send that link to you guys. But there are schools that will cover the cost of your child's attendance from 80% to 100% based on your estimated family contribution. There is a link, let me scroll one more time. I will send you this link. Yes, it's a big long link because I didn't kind of URL it. But this is a list of schools that will cover. Now, the catch to this is that these are schools that traditionally have high admission standards. So Harvard is on this list. Tufts is on this list. Boston University is on here. Stanford. But what you have now is schools that are saying, we want to say that we're this great, well-represented campus. And so you have schools like Stanford that say, we want to be diverse. We want to show that we have students that represent all of America. And so schools like Stanford, Rice University in Houston, they now have income minimums that they will assist with. And so Stanford's new minimum is like it's $125. So if your household makes less than $125,000, your student can go to Stanford for free, with the caveat that they will max their federal student loans. And so for the freshmen, your federal student loan, I believe, is $7,500, I believe, this year. And so you take a loan for $7,500, and they balance everything else out. Now, of course, to qualify for that, if you qualify for less than $125,000, then you most likely will qualify for a Pell Grant, so that's another $6,000. SELG grant, that's another $3,000. And these are all federal grants that come from you doing your FAFSA. But whether or not you qualify financially or not, every parent has to do a FAFSA. You have to. But those are ways that you can get like higher echelon schools tuition paid for. With this, one of the schools, actually the school that my daughter ended up going to is on this list. And it's really one of the reasons why we applied to this school. They meet 100% of unmet need. Well, before she got another outside scholarship, they had met her need with a scholarship for $65,000 a year. Because the difference between what I could afford to pay and that $72,000, whatever it costs, or $73,000, whatever it costs, they offered her $65,000. Of that, $50,000 was need and merit, and then additional $15,000 was a presidential scholarship. It was great. Because when I got an award letter, you guys know what award letters are, right? So when I got an award letter and I saw what they were offering and it totaled at the bottom and I saw the total cost of attendance, mommy was like, yes, thank you, Jesus. But it was because we applied to one of these schools. And that was really important. Now, if your child doesn't meet those admissions requirements, because those admission requirements tend to be high. Higher ACTs, higher GPAs, higher level of involvement, then there's still other scholarships out there. There are scholarships out there for the kid with a 2.0 and red hair. It's scholarships for everything out there. I promise you, I came across a scholarship for a kid with red hair and 2.0. Yeah, left-handed, kids with ADHD, there are now scholarships for that. There are scholarships for kids that are willing to make videos about why you shouldn't text and drive. There are scholarships available for kids who want to make like there was one that the kids did designing a ring. And it was like designing this ring for this jewelry company, but it was like a designer scholarship thing. And you had to draw out the design and draw out how you would cut the diamond, those kind of things. And it was like $1,000 scholarship. And I know somebody who won, drawing a ring. And I'm thinking, that is a really nice ring. But hey, it was $1,000. And that kid was artistic and was able to draw, and that was their strength. And so they found something in their strength area, okay? Now it's your turn to ask me questions. Any questions? I don't know the answers to everything. Okay, so I tell myself I do, but it's not really true. But what I do know is how to find out the answers to 99.9% of things. It's called Google.com. I mean, no, seriously, I do know how to figure it out. So if you guys have any questions on like how to do the essays or how to look for research on schools, those kind of things, please ask away. I'm available. Any questions? Sure.
What do they want in that essay? Because, you know, that personal statement.
So you're talking about the college admissions essay or the scholarship essay?
Either one.
Okay. College admissions essay, they want the kids to give them a glimpse of their life. But they want it in the kid's voice. And they want it to be, doesn't have to be that, oh, my grandpa died when I was 6 and I had to live with my grandmother and she struggled to take care of me. Not that. They're looking for like a glimpse of their life. A lot of kids nowadays are writing about their favorite day that they had at school that was really challenging and how they overcame it. My kid actually wrote about going to a cosplay event in Dallas and working on her cosplay outfit, and the necklace that went to the cosplay outfit broke. And the struggle of trying to fix it, being late to the event, and then thinking that her outfit was a failure, and then getting on the cosplay floor and people complimenting her on the costume, and what she thought was failure ended up being success. So those kinds of just a glimpse at who the child is, because with Common Application nowadays, you gotta catch them in the essay. Speaking of that, just a little tidbit, underneath the essay on the Common App is a spot that says 250 characters or 250 words of anything that you want to add. Don't let that space go empty. Add something. If there's a semester where grades were a little deeper, if there was a semester where you had more on your plate, a kid had more on their plate, and they struggled really hard to balance it during that time, perfect time to add that. If the kid can't do a lot of outside school activities because maybe they have younger sisters and brothers and you depend on them to assist in taking care of their younger sisters and brothers, and so, or they had to work because your household required them to have financial independence, use that space for that. Because when we went to the University of Berkeley, talked to admissions director there, and he was saying that was the most underutilized space on the Common App. When they're narrowing it down, say your kid made the Maybe Pal. Well, I read your essay, so how do I make a final narrow down? And they start looking at those additional, I think it's called additional information. It's like 250 words, short, sweet, but just a chance to give a little bit more about yourself that you can't include on the Common App because it's all check the box stuff, okay? But scholarship essays are different. Scholarship essays want to see whatever that scholarship is about, whatever it's about. So if it's a leadership scholarship, they don't really care about playing soccer for 5 years. You don't even have to tell them you played soccer for 5 years. They want to know specifically what you have done in a leadership arena. If it's a community service, they want to know only about your community service. And if you deviate from that, their mind deviates. And consider most of your private scholarships are really working adults who are on somebody's committee, that they're part of the organization. If it's a sorority or fraternity, if it's a company, this is just a small snippet of their volunteer time that they're doing to read these essays. And so if their focus is, we want to see what your kid is doing for the community, and you start talking about, I've had leadership experience in this and leadership experience in that, yeah, next. Because they're just everyday people like we are that say, okay, our scholarship is looking at leadership. They don't see leadership in the first line, they're not reading anymore at all. And a lot of times, you know, the old school English thing that our teachers taught us in school, take the question and make it a statement. Easiest way to start a scholarship essay. Easiest way. Take whatever the question that they want the essay written over, turn that into your thesis statement or your main topic sentence. Make sure you're obeying whatever their rules are. If they want 500 words, close to 500 words. If they don't want anything more than 500 words, close. But you don't have to write to the max. Write until you've done what you need to do and quit. Because, you know, after that, you start just writing whatever and start kind of filling in whatever because you're trying to make it look like it's long. Deja is a Gates scholar. Gates no longer has scholars. Her class was the last class. But it was a 9-essay application. 9 essays. Each essay was supposed to be 250 to 400 words. And she wrote about 275 on each one. And as mama, I'm going, baby, we need to put some more here. She was like, no, that's all I got to say. And, but, mama's all I got to say. Worked perfectly. But she said what she had to say. She said it concisely. Because when you're working on a number crunch, you tend to be a little bit more clear in what you're saying. Because you don't have a lot of words that you can just do extra with. And a lot of scholarships are looking at that. Steve Harvey has a scholarship called Disney Dreamers. And it comes with a small financial scholarship, but the biggest part of it is the networking and the trip that comes along with the scholarship. And it's 600 words for 3 essays. That's like, how do I do 3 essays in 600 words? But when you have a short amount of time, you get straight to it. And those essays, when they have the kid's voice, kids don't do a whole bunch of therefore, moreover, nonetheless. Kids don't do all of that. We do that. They don't. And so it ends up being the right word count for our kids because our kids live in a text generation. Now, they should never, ever, ever use text language in an essay. But that's what we're for. We proof them. And we proof them and send them back to them. But simple language, not trying to use real big words that they probably don't know what they mean. They see that. And so it needs to be very much whatever your kid's age is, age appropriate for the kid, and language appropriate for the kid. They want to hear the kid's voice. There's a couple of books about writing a college essay. They're really, really great tools. About 10 years ago they were. Nowadays, it's all about making sure the kid has a voice in the process. Any other questions?